Indeed, that institution has produced a global nation of old students which defies ethnicity, religion, political status, and other differences, but has not been tapped into to build a collective front towards national development, particularly in the educational sector. It is against this background that the Moses Foundation has been established to provide leadership in building national cohesion based on old students' solidarity and advocacy in mobilizing old students' support for sustainable educational development in the country, and to inspire global leadership excellence in schools across the country. The Moses Foundation, in the pursuit of these three objectives, has instituted these three programs: the National and Regional Competitive Best Old Students School Awards, the BOSS Awards, the Moses Generational Leadership Legend Awards, to recognize legends in leadership as ambassadors of their respective alma mater, and the Old Students Fund, amongst others. The overall objective is to recognize and reward not only old students' contribution to schools, but schools and old students associations that demonstrate sterling leadership in attracting and mobilizing their respective old students for educational support in their respective schools, general educational development, and societal leadership. All awardees each year shall be ambassadors of national cohesion, mobilizing for educational development, and promoting global excellence in Ghanaian leadership. By so doing, Ghanaians across the globe shall be united to support educational development and to shape the next generation of Ghanaian leadership. It is to set the pace for such historic strides in the country that such a cream of Ghanaian intelligentsia, eminent Ghanaian leadership brand, has been constituted to promote the Moses model as a Ghanaian model response to the UN Sustainable Development Goal on education for Africa and regions of growing economies in the world. Selling point about the Old Students Institution. Once a member, always a member, even beyond life. And so for the Moses Generational Leadership Awards, those who will be nominated, there will be posthumous awards to also at least recognize those who have contributed in terms of shaping the leadership brand of their respective schools. So in a way, once you are nominated as a Moses Generational Leadership Awardee, it means that you are now ambassador of your school. You have been able to represent your school very well. You have contributed significantly to society. You have contributed beyond even the frontiers of this country. So at the end of the day, once we recognize you, it doesn't end there. We also make sure that every year, for those who will be awarded the Moses Generational Leadership Legend Awards, we will document, have a profile of all the awardees, and this will be published in the form of magazine, and these magazines will be distributed to all the schools. So that becomes the leadership reference materials for the students. And I think it is the best way to shape the next generation of leadership, because then at least they will be learning leadership materials that is not from the West, global icons who are not from the West, but global icons who have passed through their very school system to inspire them. We need such an intervention to be able to shape the next generation of leadership. So the BOSS Awards will happen this year in November, and it will be preceded by the Moses Generational Leadership Awards. For the Moses Generational Leadership Awards, it will take the eminent members here to nominate who deserves, but you need to have that global clout. It is beyond politics, it is beyond ethnicity. We are looking at your contributions to humanity, even beyond Ghana. And at the end of the day, we recognize you as a good ambassador of your school. And then, as I indicated, there will be posthumous award to recognize all students who are not in our midst, but who have also contributed significantly to the brand of their respective schools. And their families will take the awards on their behalf. So, as Prof indicated, it's the first of its kind in the world, and we hope to develop that at a model response to the UN Sustainable Development Goals for the entire African region and for the rest of the world. And I'm sure most of our educational resource constraints will be addressed through this competitive old students kind of rivalry, because we want to shift the rivalry from just the science and math quiz, the inter-schools, and we want to shift the rivalry to contributions in terms of resources to supporting the development of our respective alma mater. And beyond that, general educational development in the country. So I think that is what I will say for now. But then, once the board has been inaugurated, it now means that we are enabled to proceed with the rest of the activities. And at any stage, the media will be invited, just like the interface that we are having here. And then you'll be informed of the programs that we have outlined to be able to attain this. And we want the collective support of all of you, because you are all part of the old students. We are all stakeholders. So you are all old students. You are all members of the Moses Foundation. Encourage your schools to be able to register, to subscribe as members, and then subsequently to submit their nominees by the end of August. And then by September, October, we can have the competitive elections globally, because they'll be voting from all over the world. And then at the end of the day, I'm sure we'll be able to have those who emerge as old students' personalities in their respective schools, old students' personalities in their regions, old students' personalities in the country. So I think that is the little that I will add. So I want to thank the rest of the board members for their support, and I hope they will continue to cooperate and support me to be able to realize these noble objectives. Thanks.
Thank you, members of the press. Let me say that one of the things that have for many years engaged my thoughts is the rivalry among schools, the banter among schools, and I'd always wondered how we can use that energy for real national cohesion and to support the educational sector. You just have to wait and see what happens when there is the regional and the national science and maths quiz. Every school, every old boy, every old girl is waiting for what they call bragging rights. And for the whole year, you have rights to brag, and nobody can challenge it. But should science and maths quiz be the only opportunity for all of us who've been to secondary school in this country? Should it be the only bragging opportunity? Once upon a time, it was not science and maths quiz, but it was inter-colleges. It was inter-colleges sports. And when we all got to the various stadia, the inter-schools rivalry was really strong. In every system, you harness the energy and the potential for an advancement of, in this instance, the educational sector, or to build national leadership. Currently in this country, it appears as if there is no opportunity to build national leadership. Everything coalesces around politics. But the country cannot only be developed by politicians. It can also be developed through this national cohesion and leadership. And therefore, for me, it was God-sent that the Moses Foundation was developed. Mobilizing old students for educational support. It doesn't come better than that. You are mobilizing the spirit and the leadership amongst old students, not only for their alma mater, but for general educational support. Who has ever heard of JSS old students and old students in JSS schools? Nobody. Who has heard of primary school old pupils before? Very few, if any. Maybe it's the current international schools. But those who went to Saito, I bet there is no old pupils of any of our once upon a time government and local authority schools. But once you get into secondary school, that becomes the active playground for most people. And of course, once upon a time, it was pretty much the period when you developed yourself, your persona, your talent, your creativity, and pretty much all the talents that the child had came into being in secondary school. And therefore, today, we have an opportunity through the Moses Foundation to harness this potential. Let me just draw an analogy. Somebody felt that if you looked at the Volta River, there were certainly about 3-4 spots where the potential to harness energy for electricity was so great that we developed the hydroelectric powers. It wasn't any running water or any running river that was used, but it needed to have a certain potential, a certain drop that could be harnessed, because by the virtue of the drop, it could turn the turbines so that energy is developed, so that electricity is developed. If you watch the National Science and Maths quiz, particularly the finals, and I say the finals because usually by that time, most have dropped out and it's the last two. Or even if you watch FA finals in any country, it is the build-up to the final that the energy gets created. And therefore, the Moses Foundation has deemed it right that we shall create national, regional competitions first. Because if you take Greater Accra, the number of schools here, the number of potential winners are considerable. If you take Cape Coast, it's probably even bigger than anywhere else. If you take Ashanti region, if you take Western region, pretty much every region, there are rivalries between schools. There are known rivalries in this country. If you take Cape Coast, there is Augustine's versus Mfantsipim versus Adisado College. It's rivalry and it will continue for ages. If you come to GSTS, if you come to Western region, it's GSTS and St. John's. These are the two, schools that believe themselves, and therefore the banter would always be there. If you went to Ashanti region, it's Premier College and Opokwai. And forever, it is, a competition like no other. So the whole idea is that why can't we harness this potential? And by harnessing this potential, you are building up a very cohesive country. After all, it is probably the only activity where doesn't matter whether you are Christian, whether you are Muslim, it doesn't matter your ethnic grouping, and so on and so forth. The rivalry is there. Once Premier College boy meets Opokwai boy, the rivalry starts. All right? And they could be brothers. But as soon as they wear the school uniforms or they wear the school jacket, it's competition and it's rivalry. So you see where the Moses Foundation is coming from. It is using that potential energy to harness national cohesion. It is using that to be able to build up support not only for the individual's alma mater, but for the educational sector. Because it should be possible that for all of us helping to develop our individual schools, that there could be some, that could be access to support the educational sector. And I mean even JSS and probably even primary education. So in a sense, this is what the Moses Foundation stands for. And also to build leadership, the kind of leadership that will be respected across board. Because pretty much all schools will know that Mr. A or Madam B is not at par with everybody. So the whole essence is to use the spirit of all students' commitment in supporting the development of their respective schools and the educational sector as a whole, to build national cohesion and also to inspire global excellence in leadership. After all, one of the things that we're taught in leadership is that leadership is cause, everything is effect. The lack of transformational leadership is one of the major banes of our society. And if we can use the Moses Foundation to build up that cohesion and global excellence in leadership, then we think that Ghana's transformation would have begun. Now, for the three important missions, that is, using the spirit of old students to build up the educational sector, the building of national cohesion, and the inspiring of global excellence in leadership, we have devised three award mechanisms, all right? The first one is the Best Old Students / School Award, and it's called the BOSS Award. This will be, the panel will be made up of the eminent panel of board members of the Moses Foundation. We would expect the schools to nominate their best old students, and we will give them criteria for the nomination. So we would go through the criteria and we will nominate. There will be regional competition, as I've indicated before, and there will be national competition. And in the end, we would have the Best Old Students / School Award. The next one is the Moses Generational Leadership Legend Award. And here, we're going to be looking at the leadership, all right? The command of leadership, the expanse of the leadership. And again, we will go through a very stringent criteria for selection, and those who will be awarded will become brand ambassadors of the Moses Foundation. They would support their respective schools, but in addition to that, they would help support the educational sector. The third is the establishment of an oldstudentsfund.com. One of the things that we're all aware is that we are in Ghana, but a lot of our old students are abroad. Getting round to getting their active participation can only be done by a few schools. There are few schools that have got old boys and old girls in pretty much all the major capitals. But with the establishment of the oldstudentfund.com, it becomes a digital platform where anybody, anywhere, can access, download the app, and you can make a contribution towards your alma mater, any project that is going on in your school, or every year there will be national projects that will be nominated also by the Moses Foundation that people can be, advised to also contribute. So in the end, we will be building up this fund for the respective schools to start with, but also for national projects that the Moses Foundation would indicate. So there is a golden opportunity for the Moses Foundation to really play a major role in national cohesion, in the global excellence in leadership amongst Ghanaians, and also in support for the educational sector. So these are the three projects that come out of the three missions of the Moses Foundation. Let me go back again to say that one is to harness the spirit of the old students, for the development of their alma mater and for other national educational projects. To build national cohesion amongst, all these old students, because as we said, this is what transcends religious boundaries, ethnic boundaries, and everything else. And then also out of this, to be able to bring out inspiring global excellence in leadership amongst, Ghanaians throughout the various schools and also as a national activity. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, this is the mission and the programs that have been enumerated by the Moses Foundation. Mobilizing old students for Educational Support Foundation. It is innovative. It is not found anywhere in the world. This is the first of its kind. And let Ghanaians also be proud that Ghanaians can innovate. Sometimes when you say that something like this can work, the first question is, where has it been done before? Almost as if a Ghanaian is not imbued with the innovative spirit to be able to begin something. The Moses Foundation is the first of its kind in the world. We're pioneering it here, and we believe it will work, and it will work on the spirit of competition amongst generations of old students of our secondary schools. If you go and meet people who went to school in the 50s, all right, bantering amongst themselves, you sit down and think that maybe when you went to school, that was probably the height of this inter-schools banter. No, it started way ahead. And we can tap on all that generational spirit and energy, to be able to build up a very cohesive national force. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
The old students of the primary school that I attended were able to mobilize money, big money, to sink a borehole in our alma mater within 10 days. And this was it's a platform of less than 100 of us. So, and then a few other instances where our old, I finished school tech about some 25 years ago. That was last year. And then we decided to come together. Our class, there were only 30 of us. But we decided to come together as the 1994 year group to also give something back to the department. And these are the few instances that inspired me and got me thinking that it would be a worthy cause to be part of this. I would encourage all of us here to carry this message along and let the world know that a new kid, the newest kid on the block, is the Moses Foundation. And everybody who attended school should get hooked onto this initiative. And I believe that in the next couple of years, we may reconvene to look back and reflect and know that we're part of this big movement that was birthed on the 20th day of April, 2022, and we'll all be proud of that. As a board, we can only direct and provide advice, but we trust that with our collective effort and looking at the people around this table, especially Prof and two other eminent board members who are unfortunately are not able to join, we'll be able to steer and help the president to steer this foundation to where it's supposed to be. Everybody here who attended a certain school, you are part of the Moses Foundation. God bless us all. Thank you.